Your thoughts on government cover-ups or covert societies attempting to control humanity. Do you believe in ancient astronauts, intergalactic communication, or extraterrestrial visitations? Ever had an experience with disembodied spirits or the paranormal universe? Are these subjects fact or fiction? Each week, Tony and Eddie explore these unbelievable realities and beyond. Exclusively on Truth Be Told.
Welcome back to Truth Be Told, where we believe an experience becomes truth. I'm your host, Tony Sweet, and I'm here with world-renowned psychic Eddie Connor.
Hello.
Thank you for supporting our sponsors. For over 40 years, Earth-Friendly Products have brought you the greenest home products for all your family needs. Go to ecos.com. That's ecos.com.
And take your mind on a literary journey to adventuresunlimitedpress.com and purchase books from many of the experts featured right here on Truth Be Told.
All right, in this segment, we have psychic mediums. We have Jennifer Phillips and Lainey Grace joining us in the Psychic Cafe.
Jennifer Phillips is a professional evidential medium, psychic, and tarot reader. She has been a practicing Reiki master and also been working in energy healing arts professionally for over 20 years. She has also done mediumship and tarot since her late teens. She is a clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, and an empath. She has also studied with renowned teachers to further develop her gifts.
Our next guest is psychic medium and clairvoyant, Lainey Grace. Now, Lainey's intuition allows her to connect with loved ones in the spirit world, including pets. This connection offers healing, messages of peace, hope, and love.
Lainey experiences precognitive dreams and visions, giving her the ability to see future events. And she has a unique ability to tap into your aura using her pendulums and automatic writing as a source of guidance. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome our psychic mediums, Lainey Grace and Jennifer Phillips.
Welcome to the show. How are you, Jennifer?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
We're great. We're great. Our other guest, Lainey, is on her way. You know, LA traffic, but you guys stick tight and enjoy the show with us.
And it's Friday, of course, so it's going to be extra bad. And Jennifer and I just heard some helicopters outside, so you never know what's going on. There could be a skyscraper leaning. It is the opening of San Andreas this weekend.
Oh, that's
That's
right.
true.
Scary.
So how did you become who you are as a psychic medium, clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, and empathic?
I was born this way.
Oh, Lady Gaga!
No, truthfully, I was. I was pretty much born this way when I was a little kid. I lived in a home that had been used for the Underground Railroad, and I'd watch those ghosts parade up and down the stairs, thinking, "Don't bother me, please, don't bother me." They bothered me.
Yeah.
And so from there, it was just, I thought everybody did it, and everybody does do it to a certain degree, I think.
I do too. So where were you living at where you're in this historical house?
Chicago.
No.
wow.
Oh, I'm
Chicago.
fascinated by all of that.
Mhm.
I am. My heart always breaks a little bit. You know what I mean? When we're talking about Underground Railroad, the Trail of Tears,
Yeah.
anything like that just breaks my heart. So how old were you when you started seeing these spirits, these ghosts sort of moving through?
Well, I apparently had imaginary friends from a very young age and had some pretty amazing stories, I guess. And some of them were quite accurate. And then I was about second grade when I really sort of started to put all the pieces together that these were for real. They weren't some figment of my imagination, and they weren't leaving. They weren't going anywhere. They were going to be with me for a long time. And then I had a precognitive dream that my grandmother died in a red car. And I was told, "Oh, dear, nobody in the family owns a red car. It's just a dream." My aunt had bought a red car and didn't want anybody to know. And my grandmother died in a red car in the rain.
No.
Yeah. So, but kids have those dreams where they're wide open. My son is wide open like that. So, everybody just sort of patted me on the head and went, well, okay. And we went on with life.
And were they open to it to a point, or they just loved you so much and they were good parents that they
just really didn't address it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they really didn't address it. And then as a kid, you start to close down because you want to be like everybody else, and your focus changes to soccer and softball and all of those things. But it just never really went away. And then when I went away to university, it became extremely difficult to ignore. And I always was in the libraries between the stacks reading about, oracles and witchery and everything I could get my hands on in the adult part of the library that was about magic and spirits and mediums.
Why do you think you started picking up those books at that time, just more for your curiosity of what was going on in your life? Or
I was an avid reader to begin with, and I think that I was trying to figure out, I was trying to explain it like you would, the crossing of the Delaware.
Yeah.
I was trying to explain to myself, there's got to be somebody else out there like me. And I was only probably 4th, 5th grade at that point.
Wow.
Yeah, I was really young.
That's the hardest thing. I was a third generation psychic, but my grandmother was Southern Baptist, and child, you just didn't talk about it. It's the work of the devil. And then Mom was like, I am, and I don't like it. I don't want anything to do with it. And then there was me. So it was sort of shut down. Hey.
Yeah. My dad is extremely, and it runs in my dad's family.
Wow.
He later sat me down and said, you're not going crazy. These are not voices that don't exist. This is what's going on, after sending my mother, who believed we were playing with the devil, to the grocery store so he could say what he needed to say. But again, it was like, it's your thing and it's weird, and just keep it under wraps.
How are you with your son? You say he's...
We have a blast with it.
Okay.
We sit, he goes to a Catholic school, and so he sits back. So we'll be in the church for these little get-togethers, parents and kid get-togethers. To go, Mommy, wait till, sister starts playing the guitar. All the angels will be up in the corner. And sure enough, and I'll say, oh, yeah, but I think we should keep this between us.
How much of what you see as a clairvoyant, how much of what you see is in the mind's eye, sort of like a hologram or like a little movie screen, and how much of it is like here in front of you?
I think I've never really tried to figure out which is which. I think more when I'm working psychically, I find it's in my mind's eye, but still my mind's eye out here. And when I'm seeing spirits, it's generally out here somewhere that I'm looking at them. They're out there.
Did you see them as holograms or like little images or like this?
Usually more like holograms. I
That's how I
rarely
see 'em
get
too.
something totally solid, and the same with the voices. The voices tend to be a little bit thinner unless I'm getting a message that's a really big one, like don't leave the house today. And that's loud and clear, like someone standing right next to me.
I love that you said that. Now, I was on the school bus one time whenever I was in elementary school, 2nd grade or something, and I'm just sitting there. We're going across a ravine. I'm not going to go into the story, but a voice said, it was a man's voice. There were no men on our school bus, and the bus driver was a woman. And it literally said, leave school after lunch today. And I looked around like, did you hear that? And then about another minute later, it came back, leave school. It was deep, but it wasn't scary. And it was as real as we're having this conversation. And I did. I left school after lunch that day. I pretended I was sick and everything. And that bus fell off of a hill, fell off of a cliff on the side that I was assigned to sit on. And, but when I hear, I'm going to ask you this, when I hear dead people, they're very wispy. I call it a staticky AM radio station taped to the back of a camel's ass going through the Mojave Desert. So I'll hear like every third word. And then I have to piece it together with pictures. But when I hear a person's spirits talking, it's very clear, like an FM signal. What are yours like?
Italians and Greeks are like, your mom was lecturing you in the kitchen. I can literally sit with a client across, and it's like, and she says, you're not da 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 da, and you need to, and it just comes in like that. And then there are others that it's like every third word.
Yeah.
Or 4th word, and it's like a bad radio station. You know, it just seems to depend.
Isn't that interesting? So if our frequency is raised, because that's where the word medium comes from, you have to raise your frequency. They sort of lower theirs a little bit, and you meet in the middle, as it were. Isn't it funny that even when our frequency is raised, it can still be that sort of staticky, right in harmony with somebody that's like, leave school after lunch today.
Yeah.
I find that fascinating. But this is going to be a weird question. I've seen it 3 times, so I'm just going to say and ask you, is there anybody in your family that had anything to do with saws or sawing or chopping or something like that?
Oh, you're going to have fun with this one. My grandfather was a contractor.
Yeah.
Who couldn't fix anything. My father loves to build things with wood.
Okay.
Loves to.
Because there's a male energy behind you showing me. I can see the man's hand.
Oh, it might be. It's probably one of my grandfathers. Yeah.
And did somebody have a little log cabin or a cabin in the woods for a minute, or did you guys ever go there to like vacation or something?
I can't place the log cabin.
Yeah, and
but
so
that doesn't mean there isn't one in the family.
Yeah, like a cottage or something. I call it log cabins because it's out in the woods and you don't have no disruptions.
Well, my grandfather had a farm,
okay.
So that could be what you're picking up is the farm.
Well, you got them around you loud and clear.
Oh, all the time, yeah.
Yeah, and you've got such a sparkly energy. I find that so refreshing because not to be talking smack about other people who do what we do, but a lot of people who do what we do are not the nicest people on the planet. See how nice and sparkly she is? She's like, Eddie, hold on, let me put up my psychic wall. So, I mean, but you have that. It's almost sprightly, which is too small of a word. It's like this wonderful fairy-esque, sprightly, effervescence twinkle about you.
Can you get any more words that refer to short in there?
No, see, I didn't even think of that. I was thinking of that wonderful, refreshing energy where you just want to follow Tinkerbell, another short word, to Neverland. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and have you always been this way? I can just imagine you as a little kid, just like skipping along, talking to your imaginary friends and everything.
I think, yeah, pretty much. I mean, I have a whole nother heavy side to me that's very serious and businesslike.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, I'm in the room with you guys. How can you not have fun?
Oh, there you
go. You know, and have high energy in this room.
That's what I'm saying.
Will you explain to the audience what evidential mediumship is?
Wow. So evidential mediums, and Janet Nahovac, who I'm sure you're familiar with her name, is sort of one of the evidential mediums in the world. And I study with Janet. You don't just say, I have your grandmother here, and she says she loves you. You say, I have your grandmother here, and she wore Chantilly lace, and she hated to wear those corrective shoes when she was a kid, and she really doesn't like the color you painted your kitchen last weekend.
Right.
Wow.
And then they know that's their grandmother, not
just
anybody can say, I have your grandmother here, and she loves you very much.
That's right.
Anybody can, but to come through with evidence of either how they died or maybe what you did or an illness that you're fighting, something's going on in your life, and you never know it's going to come through, as you know. You can get the strangest, most unusual pieces of information, and so that's what differentiates a medium who can talk to spirit guides and other informational entities that are out there from an evidential medium.
Are you interested or curious about how it is that, well, I understand it, so I'm not talking bad about anything or anybody, but a lot of times people, let's say someone's parent has been on the other side for 20, 25 years. Mm-hmm. For some reason, in their mind, they think that parent is supposed to come through and be like they were 20, 25 years ago. And they'll come through and give little snippets like they were back in the day, but they also simultaneously are also showing them their new evolved consciousness too. So let me shorten the question. Are you, when you have people come in and you're doing the evidential mediumship work, do they come in similar to how the person knew them, like the person knew them, and then as they know for a fact it's really that loved one, then they start talking about where they're at on the other side?
I mean, generally when people come to see me, and probably you as well, they usually have something going on in their life that's important. So they're either coming directly to the medium to contact somebody on the other side, but they might also have a question about their own life that really is more psychically based, or they want to know what grandma has to say about it. Mm-hmm. And so I find they tend to come to me in a way that they'll be identified. Like I have
Yes.
one grandfather who's not a very nice man. If you said he came in like the most loving, wonderful guy in the world,
You're
I
like,
said,
yeah.
that's not my grandfather.
Yeah.
That's somebody else's grandfather. You know. Well, if the other one came in and with his tractor, I would absolutely know. He always comes with a tractor.
Yeah.
Or John Deere hat. They
Well,
always.
I
Yeah,
want,
they do.
Yeah.
Their icon, whatever their iconic thing was when they were alive.
well, I want to ask, because you hear this all the time. I want closure. Well, my thing is the person is already gone. I mean, what closure from just saying that they're on the other side, they're happy, they're running, they're whatever. What do you find? Why do you think people are trying to find closure? Because nowadays with Teresa Caputo and all these people, we hear this all the time, that people are on the other side. They're happier than they were here, or they're in no pain anymore. Why do people still try to find closure when most of us, well, hopefully most of us, know that we are better off on the other side?
You know, I think part of that is people really wanting to know there is another side.
Mm.
They really want to know that they're in a good place, that they're not just dust somewhere.
Yeah,
I think
right.
I think that's part of it. I also think that there's a certain comfort, and I know, I'm sure Lainey does this too, but when a client comes to me, I also say to them, you know what? You can talk to your grandmother. You
Right.
can talk to your husband or your wife or your child.
Yes.
And so in coming for closure, I don't know if they're really coming to close it, but they might really be coming to open the communication.
Mhm.
And to
Which
feel
is good.
and to feel, I find a sense of proof. Have you ever
Yeah.
lost anybody that you were super, super like,
Oh yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
and but some people feel like they didn't get to their last moments with them and that sort of thing, and so that's part of what the closure is. But I know what you're talking about for sure, about they're so much happier over there
Oh
than
yeah.
over here. How about you, Lainey?
Well, the key is evidence that they are still around. So, for instance, I had a client call me after several psychics asking about a pet that was a dearly beloved pet, and everybody was describing a pet different than what her pet was. So by the time she got to me, and I had direct communication with the pet, I was able to give evidence of the pet survival. She said, well, how was he buried? And I was able to tell her, there's a red fabric over him, and I see Bow Wow on it. And she burst into tears. Oh my God, that's him! I wrapped him in a red shirt that said, Camp Doggy Bow Wow. So this is what they're looking for. They're
Camp
looking for
Doggy Bow Wow.
evidence of survival, and so that's the key. Closure can be just that. There's evidence that they go on. They're still around.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I find too, a lot of people think that are like, my mom passed away in January, and she pops in all the time with her one-liners, which is why I'm such a smart ass, I think. And I'm not blaming it on my mom. I'm saying I inherited it from you, Mom, so please don't thump me in the middle of the night again. And they come through differently for everybody. So I think it's like we're all talking about attuning to it a little bit more, becoming more conscious of it, so that you don't think, oh, I just missed them, or I was just thinking about them for whatever reason, and then it goes away. It's like holding on to that energy just a little bit more, and knowing that it is as real as sitting across from you, looking into your blue eyes.
Many
Red.
times also,
Green.
many times also, Spirit will give some sort of piece of evidence, like, for instance, a butterfly or a special, and it's not the spirit itself that's the butterfly or the hummingbird or the specific flower, but it's Spirit's way of saying, you're going to see this and I'm sending it to you. A feather, a penny, it could be anything. And that happens quite a bit in readings, where we'll see something, a symbolism of some sort, and look for a blue butterfly, and then they see it and know that this is your loved one, sending this energy to you to let you know that they're still around. So
Well, actually, that brings up a thought. When I was in Kansas City years ago, when I lived there, there was a time that I went through where those things happened, like back to back to back to back. A white dove flew over my head, and how often does a white dove fly over your head? At a concert, a random person just came up, put their hand on my shoulder, and just said, Jesus loves you. I mean, it wasn't just like it was.
It wasn't like, come to my church and put
Yeah,
money in the plate.
that's all. I was way out of the way. I was just was daydreaming, and it actually startled me.
And you were on a vision quest, actually.
Yeah, I was, and then that's all she said, and she turns around and walked away. It wasn't like it was like having a conversation with me. That's all she said, and just other things kept happening. Why do you think there's a period of time that those things opened up in my life? That was it. I needed it at that time, or what? What do you think that happened?
They're beautiful synchronicities. Spirit does this all the time. So when we're on a path, especially when we're on a spiritual path, we need to be careful what we ask for, because as soon as we open that door, they will come in. So once we have our attention there, beautiful synchronicities will start to happen. And I find doing this work, a lot of healing comes to me. And it's like a circle. So as I open and bring it in, I'm able to give it back out. Do you know, it's full circle. So as soon as I focus my attention and my intention on spirit and, the healing energies, because I'm doing that work in love and service for my clients, it will be around me. So you were on a quest of some sort. And
I was. That's when I was a spiritual quest. It wasn't a religious request or quest. It was a spiritual quest.
Right. It's not a denominational thing.
Right.
It's universal spiritual energy.
That's when I would go to. I went to a Buddhist temple. I was just going to different. I wanted to learn all about religions.
You were waking up.
I was. I was.
So now you have a workshop. Is it tomorrow night?
It's actually not a workshop. It's a demo.
Ooh.
Yes. With Courtney Kimmick, and we're doing. Courtney's actually a spirit artist, so she's going to be drawing the spirits that she's. We'll be linking together so that she can actually see what I'm seeing.
Oh, that's so cool. And then this is in front of an audience?
Yes.
Okay. So we need to get our tickets at the Crystal Shrine.
Yes.
.com.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have the
Barbara. And so she was more of a feeler and a sensor and a knower, and I was more the seer, the hearer, and the whatever else I am, a mess. Oh, a medium. A messy medium. We would sit on the little love seat together and do like tag team readings. It was so much fun, and that's how we ended up coming out to Los Angeles. So how are you ladies tag teaming?
I don't know how you just do it. I mean, you really just link in and do it. I don't know how.
In front of everybody.
Yeah.
I've worked with Courtney. She's actually a member of my development circle in my home, and that's how we got her to the Crystal Shrine. She's amazing. So what'll happen is, and exactly what you're speaking about, so we have a whole group working with sitters. We'll bring sitters in, and we had one sitter in, and there were several spirits that were showing up for her. And this sitter that grabbed Courtney's attention was the father. Now, interestingly enough, Courtney doesn't see them. She feels them and draws them from feeling. It is the most amazing thing. And at the end of the session, when Courtney turned her pad around, it literally matched the picture, the photograph of the father.
Crazy. Wow.
But with the beautiful light in his eyes and her drawing. And what is unusual and different about that is, so we use all the energies to receive. She wasn't actually seeing. She was just drawing from feeling. From her clear sentience.
From where he is now in that energy. And let's say you're pulling the iconic images and things from him while she's doing that sort of like bridging heaven and earth.
Yes. It's going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. So do you guys know each other? Because you're at the Crystal Shrine. And it's not that you're supposed to be braiding each other's hair and be girlfriends and drinking lemonade.
Although we've done that.
We could do that. I think we'd rather braid a bottle of wine.
So we did do one event together. We did a jam together.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it's such a great little space.
It's beautiful. It has wonderful energy, beautiful, beautiful jewelry. It's a wonderful storage.
Yeah, I didn't bring my jewelry today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I got from there as a birthday present for myself. Okay.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, when I turned 28.
Again.
I got your psychic.
So you bought an antique.
I will cut you
I'm
on
just
the air.
kidding.
I got my keys. I'll cut you.
So Jennifer, you were talking about your having a son and sharing that moment with him. When have you had a parent of a psychic kid come to you and say, what do I do?
So many that
with,
I
with
had.
my children.
Yes, so many that I ran a workshop at one
Oh, you
time.
did?
Yeah, for a handful of parents
Good.
to come with their kids. So the kids could talk openly about it, and the parents can be like, "Oh, what do I
Right.
do?" Because some of the parents aren't necessarily like myself or Lainey, and I think it made the parents feel a little more comfortable, and I think it also the parents, unbeknownst to themselves, started to open. The energy was so high in the room that they had no choice. They just, they resonated at a higher place, and so they started to understand more that it wasn't unusual, that it was normal, and that they were that way when they were kids too. They just maybe don't remember that.
I was going to say, as your father took you aside and said, you're not going crazy. You're not hearing. But did you have any parents that came to you eventually? It's like, I actually see things too, or I hear things too, or.
Yeah, normally they don't want to necessarily admit it
Divulge.
right out because they're not so sure that they're not going crazy, especially the ones with multiple children.
Right, right.
Well, and speaking of going crazy, so let's go back to when you ladies were children. I mean, we got a little bit of how you would see the ghost walking by connected to the Underground Railroad in the historical house, and then you would hear the voices, some clear, some staticky. How was yours? I mean, when you first started opening up psychically, did you even know what it was?
Everything for me growing up was in dreams, and then it became visions. So I'm probably more clairvoyant than anything, and the rest of it didn't really come in until later, in my mid-40s. A couple of weeks ago.
Again?
Oh.
Oh, geez, I had to piggyback on Jennifer there.
So yeah, it was all seeing, and what's fascinating is the dreams that came in that were psychic or prophetic have stuck with me as if, like the Pledge of Allegiance, you never forget it.
Yeah.
Right. That's true.
Really interesting.
So when did you guys meet your spirit guides? For the audience, every human has spirit guides. We all have angels. We have master teachers, some of them that are known around the world and some that may never be known by mass consciousness. But when did you wake up to your spirit guides that took your hand and said, come on now, here's what we're going to be doing. You're going to be psychic, girl. Now come on.
For me, it was a really almost scary situation. I woke up from a dream, a napping in the middle of the day, and when I woke up, I saw this huge blue eye floating in front of me as if a TV screen had dropped down with the universe behind it. So I thought, my gosh, what is this, a hypnagogic thing? Am I going crazy? 911, help.
Help.
And as I looked at it, I thought, oh, it'll fade away. I'm just dreaming. It didn't. And the more I looked at it, and I realized, my goodness, if I could see the entire face, this would be a face that is smiling at me. And I'm looking, is this male? Is this female? There was just no determination. And then it faded. And from that point forward, that is when I got really slammed with the mediumship. And I had a blue light sitting at the base of my eye for the longest time that I was thinking, I got to get to the eye doctor. What is it? What is it? And then every now and then it would sort of pop out like a cone and go back in. And it wasn't until I attended a workshop shortly thereafter, and I brought it up, the guru that was leading the workshop said, oh yeah, does it ever pop out like a cone? And I said, oh my gosh, now I know what it is, because I actually did go to the eye doctor, and she said, unless you're seeing a whole lot of sparkly lights floating around, we can't explain that, so it's different for everybody, but I think for me, because I'm so clairvoyant first, it really was about the vision. And I dreamt also, it took a year from a dream that I had to connect who that was in the dream, who works with me energetically, is my gatekeeper, my protector.
Yeah.
And that's the blue light.
Oh, I love that.
But I had no idea in the dream a year prior how to connect the dots until a year later. And that's what I love about how spirit works. They don't throw too much at us at once, and they give it to us in a way that we can accept it and work with it and to believe it. And, being clairvoyant is probably the best in terms of seeing is believing.
Yeah. I think so too. I think so too. And if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Truth Be Told. I'm Eddie Connor.
I'm Tony Sweet.
And we have our psychic mediums in-house. We have Lainey Grace and we have Jennifer Phillips. And Jennifer, when did you first meet your spirit guide and them walk you over and show you what you're going to be doing when you grew up?
When I grew up, that would probably be about second grade. somebody following me, but I don't think I had quite the cognitive ability yet. Not that I was a dumb kid, but just the knowing and understanding to put it together. And that was literally a man standing by my bed and a voice. Hi.
Wow. That's kind of scary.
It was kind of scary at first, but then you realized, hey, he's not doing anything, and he's a ghost, and can't really do much. Maybe throw some things around if he wants to, I guess. But I didn't feel threatened, and he would just show up sometimes. Like I would be walking to school, and oh, you're behind me. Okay.
Why do you think he shows up at certain times?
I think at that point, I was going through a transition. We'd moved several times. So that he kind of showed up as, hey, I'm your buddy. And no matter where you move and no matter how often, I'm going to be here with you. Yeah.
That's
Makes
cool.
sense.
And then you never know. There could have been something not good on that street that nobody knew about, but the spirit guide just sort of watching over you and letting you see. And isn't it nice, even though you move around and stuff like that, you have that one piece that's consistent, that's sturdy, that makes you feel safe and seen and heard.
I can't even imagine what it would be like to go through life without it. I would think I would be desperately lonely if I didn't have my guide with me, just knowing that they're there all the time.
So, and I know you're going to have to jettison in just a little bit, but I want to ask you both really quickly. What do you, when I say star children, because I'm 54 and that's what we heard whenever I was growing up, and now it's indigo children, and now I think there's a new term for it. But do you feel like you're somehow connected to the stars, that you were not, quote, normal?
I knew that I wasn't. I knew that I was different. And similar to the story that she had told about having somebody with her, I had a very frightening situation occur for me about the age of 14. And that's when I had my first wake-up call that I wasn't alone. I was given direction. And what's interesting about that is it's just very cut and dry direction.
Yeah.
Do this way now. And as soon as I would ask a question, I would hear, just do it. And I was able to get myself out of a very terrifying situation. But beyond that, in regard to what you're saying, it feels like we have more than just one spirit guide. There's so many, and they come in as needed. Some identify themselves and some don't. But the key is, I believe everybody can receive the protection and the guides if they open to it. I think it's for everybody. It's not a particular group. I think it's all of us.
Yeah. How about Jennifer? How about you, star baby?
I always knew I wasn't quite normal, like everybody else. There was just a sense that I don't know. I knew things before they happened. I knew if a teacher was going to get replaced before she got replaced. I knew somebody was pregnant before they were pregnant. And I never thought much of it because, again, when you're a kid, it's just...
You just think everybody's that way.
Yeah, and my son right now just thinks everybody's that way.
Did you have a thing, too, when you guys were growing up? This was one of my big things. I could always tell when a teacher did not want to be teaching, when they didn't like children, when they would rather be anywhere else, out in the strawberry patch, picking strawberries other than teaching us. And it used to flip me out because I thought, what did I do wrong that makes them not want to be here? But when you know those things as a kid, it'll mess with your head until you wake up to the higher frequencies, I think. Did that happen to you guys?
For me, it wasn't like that. For me, I feel like I was really in a little bubble. Yeah. And so a lot of environmental things that weren't so great that were going on sort of flew over my head. And then when I needed assistance, that's when it would appear to me. So I wasn't really going through life as a child knowing too much and being too aware of things that really weren't important for my development at the time.
Yeah.
But I do want to mention that I believe that a lot, because most of us have the gifts if we just focus our attention on it.
Right.
Children who have been in environments where they really needed to look out for themselves, so to speak. Those gifts really were like, ping, high frequency.
Yes.
So, that has a lot to do with it as well.
I'm convinced that's what saved my life.
Absolutely.
Like a dozen different times before I was ever 6 years old.
Absolutely.
For sure. And where can we find you? Now, we know you're going to be at the Crystal Shrine tomorrow night doing a...
Yep. And July 14th.
So, Lainey, help us understand the difference. Well, just break it down for the audience, for new people who don't know this language. Break it down for us and explain what clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient is.
Okay, so the word clair is French for clear. So then it would be clairvoyant is seeing. So clear.
Rose quartz, and the next thing I know, we're getting reading.
Which is not a bad thing.
I know. And one of the things that you said at the end of the reading, and you drew a little picture of it, I had just come home. I'd been home for almost 2 months with my mom, and you had drawn this thing on the piece of paper, and you didn't quite know what it was, but you kept saying, your mother is showing me this, and she's showing me this, and you said some things. And it didn't make any sense to you at the time, but you drew it and it had little drops coming out of it. And I had to create this cocktail with hospice for my mom that was morphine and the other 2 drugs that go with it. And Mom was terrified of morphine because she'd had 2 horrible reactions to it in 97 and then again in 2013, I think. But so she wouldn't trust anybody else with it. So I was constantly mixing it, putting a little drop of water in it, and putting it in a thing that you drew that looked like you would feed a baby bird with, and give her the exact amount every 2 hours on the nose. And it had to be perfect because you had to alternate them. And I thought that was remarkable. And I got a lot of good stuff from the reading, but that was the one thing at the end. And it's not something I was, quote, looking for or that I even associated with my mom at all. But, of course, she would. The last 3 days of her life when that was what I was having to do around the clock. So that was like remarkable. And then you were in the reading, you were helping me understand some things going on oracally and with the chakras.
Yes.
And she was like, her pendulum was sweeping every which way, and I was like, what's going on? So explain to us what, like, whenever a person's aura is affected and how you go in and do energy work with auras and chakras and why that's so important.
One of the things that I find when I sit down and, first of all, the way that I read is unusual. And again, this is guides giving me how to do it. So I just follow the directions. So I'll draw a U. By the way, I've had clients say to me, why don't you take an art class? Anyway, so I do the drawing. So the pendulum is a visual aid to pick up where the energy may be blocked. What I get when I draw you, I will get past injuries, emotional trauma, psychic trauma. A lot of times psychological and emotional will become a physical ailment as well. So the way the energy moves, this is how I see it. So that when I draw you, I can say, so did you have something happen with a knee? And then if the person says no, then I say, well, we want to be careful, make sure the toes and the knees are lined up when you bend and you pick things up. Because when I do the reading, I set the intention for hopeful, helpful messages coming from a place of love and service. So I don't want anybody to run from the room screaming, afraid. But at the same time, I want to, make sure that they're aware of these little nuances that might be going on. I'm noticing now, though, that I'm working more with my hands, so I can actually lay my hands on somebody and pick up the same type of information, although it's a little bit more specific than when I do it with the pendulum. Not everybody needs me to be touching them, so I do it with the drawing. Right.
That's amazing. And so what is an aura for beginners that are just tuning in and listening, and they're like, what's an aura?
I teach a basic psychic development class, and how I teach it is I teach it that it's energy. So I teach people how to feel the energy around their own body and how to feel the energy around others. Seeing the aura takes time and practice.
Yeah.
You can look at a person and kind of do a soft gaze around them and start to see it. Colors will start flying through. Sometimes they look like little swords, are very, very faint. You can actually see through the colors. Over time, you can develop that more clairvoyantly. I like to look at it as the energy field. And so the energy, for instance, in front of your body, I can put my hand and feel if you have strong heart energy, but maybe not so strong throat, clairaudient. It's this kind of thing.
That's
Well, and
fascinating.
everything has energy.
Absolutely.
Plants,
everything.
rocks, pebbles, water, ocean, everything.
Absolutely.
This IKEA desk has energy.
Because the key to that is, if we're going to look at the reality, they're all energy and all matter was created and cannot be destroyed. So if we look at the law of physics, everything that we have and create and build comes from existing matter. So
That's been
kind of takes the witchy woo-woo out of it.
It does that. We keep recycling and
Absolutely.
recycling through thoughts, images, pictures. Then we'll sketch it, and then we'll build it, and then we'll manufacture 1,000,000 of these. And then whenever this goes, it doesn't just go.
That's right.
The energy of it is going to go back up there, and it's going to keep coming back around and around. And aren't you shocked that there's hardly any in human thought? There's very little original thought versus new ideas that could change everything.
Well, there are people that are here for that purpose.
Yeah.
The key to the energy is that it changes form. And so this is one of the things that's important for mediums to communicate when, we talk about loved ones that have crossed over and we want to show you evidence of their survival. Well, they're no longer in the human flesh form, but they still exist because they've changed form. So if you were to set that piece of paper on fire, it doesn't mean that that piece of paper no longer exists. It's just not a physical piece of paper you can write on. It's changed form, but it is still matter and it is still energy.
Yeah.
So that's the key.
Yeah, I find that a lot, and we talked about this earlier, I think just before you got here, and that is a lot of people when they are tuning into a relative or they want to talk to a dead relative, their mind is about this big, and it's based on Harry Houdini is a great example of this. He was the famous magician, but he was also his life's work was to debunk mediums.
Yes, that
he
was.
he made a whole career out of it, and he was, I think, just based on what little bit I know, he went to a lot of mediums. If they didn't say what he thought they should have said, then he called them a charlatan. So he went to one lady, which was Arthur. God, I'm going to get it wrong.
Finley?
Yeah, his wife was a medium, and as a gift for his birthday, she said, "I'll tune in and see what I can get for you." So the mother came in with all of these specific things, but at the end of the reading, he exposed her as a charlatan. And his best friend said, "Why would you do that to my wife? You know her. You know she's got integrity. She's honest." And he said, "It's my birthday. My mother would have said happy birthday to me." And now she had been over on the other side for years at that point. And he's like, "Dude, you don't have any understanding of how this energy works." And so that was the end of their relationship. But because most people come in with these little tiny, like 100th of a second moments that they had with their loved ones, they forget the other gazillion experiences that was a big impact on the loved one. So sometimes they're like, yeah, but she didn't say this, so I don't think it's real. Isn't that fascinating?
It really is fascinating, and it's also sort of sad. One of the things that I like to talk about is psychic amnesia.
Oh, God, yes.
Lots of times people will come in and they'll have a specific question or a specific information that they want, and so anything else that you give them above and beyond that, they're just coincidence example, a friend of mine was really concerned about a real estate transaction going on with her mother's property, her grandmother's property after she passed. And in the reading, I see a Pomeranian eye with a little line through it. And I said, "I've got a palm eye here and the letter M." She said, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about, the palm eye." "Well, I have 3 Pomeranians. The letter M, that could be the realtor's name. Anyway, blah, blah, blah." Well, guess what? The next day, their Pomeranian, whose name is Maui, they found something in his eye and rushed him in and had to be removed.
Wow.
So this is how it works. So people, and that's just an example of the, psychic amnesia and the tunnel vision. So this does happen quite a bit. There are beautiful, beautiful synchronicities that do happen around getting that specific thing that they want. One of the things I try to do is really just get out of the way, give it as I receive it, and at some point, if it doesn't resonate at that moment, it typically will resonate later. Case in point, the picture I drew for you, Spirit doesn't want to frighten you, and take you there. You got to get there when you get there. So
Well, and then the messages you gave me with it could have been construed as general messages, not by me. Could have been construed as general messages, but every one of those messages, she said that you were there the whole time, you never left her side, da-da-da-da-da-da. All of these things could have been very general, but what came in with the dropper and the morphine thing, if I were skeptical in an unhealthy way, that would have been the straw that broke the camel's back. And I would have been a believer then, but I was a believer to start with. Now, we have like 3 minutes left, so how can we get a hold of you? I know you do developmental classes.
I do.
I should say psychic development classes. Tony and I will be in the front row going, teach us how to read.
I will. I absolutely will. Believe it or not, everybody walks out of there going, "Wow, I can read." So we start out with small things. I teach you how to read a flower, how to read ribbons, little things like that. So I have a psychic development class I teach at the Crystal Shrine. It runs every 6 weeks with a 2-week break. I'm in my 3rd week now of an existing class. I also have a development circle that I move into my home for my students after the class, and then I'm planning to go forward with some workshops.
Good. That's
so I'll be announcing
exciting.
that. Yeah.
And I know we posted your website and information online the whole time you've been here. So
Thank
as
you.
your image is up, we have Lainey Grace Psychic Medium and LaineyGrace.com.
Yes.
It's fabulous. I am so excited. I learn so much from other people who do what I do. So we thank you for being here. And we like to do the Psychic Cafe thing because it's a conversation that we don't often get to have. And it educates people so that they sit back and they go, oh, so from now on, you won't walk up to us at a party and go, what am I thinking? I said, what am I thinking? So thank you for being with us.
So
Thank you.
Lainey Grace. Go to LaineyGrace.com, and we thank you so much for being here. We want you to come back.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so you guys can all go to truthbetoldwebtv.com, and you can find out all of our upcoming shows. We have a great show for you next week, and I know on the 12th, who do we have coming in?
We have Nikki the Healer, and we have, I think, Teresa. And she's connected to the Crystal Shrine as well. I don't know.
Well, just go
Sarah?
to...
Yes.
It's okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, we'll put it up on truthbetoldwebtv.com. And we want to thank you guys for joining us, as always. And please, if you have anybody that you would love to have us have on the show, please email us. Just go to the website. And Eddie and I thank you so much. Until then, we'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye, y'all.